Welcome back to the podcast where we ask the question, what makes you happy? My name is Jake Pearson, and today we have with us a consulting hypnotherapist, Kevin Patton from London. Kevin, how are you?
I'm great. I'm great. Yeah, it's good to see you.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it. Can you share a little bit about what makes you happy?
I think it works for everyone, is making a difference. Uh, Seeing something that you've done empower someone else and have them step into their own power and start showing up in their life for themselves. That really hits the spot for me.
I love that. And how long did it take you to discover that, or is that something that you just naturally knew? I like empowering and helping other people step into their confidence in their life.
I've known that for a long time. I used to teach martial arts when I was a young man. And as people grow in confidence, you can really see. Um, and then it just went from there into different things.
I really love that because I'm in the martial arts field myself, where I aspire to be an amateur slash novice boxer, and I train with a lot of new people that come through, and I love seeing them step into their confidence as well. Them getting more comfortable in the ring, and all of a sudden they're able to throw combos and defend themselves, and they're like, "Oh wow, I can't believe that worked." So I completely resonate with everything that you're saying. So that's fantastic, and we were talking off screen about this really incredible technique. Now, I think it would be very beneficial to hear more about that for the listener, about how that could maybe improve a little bit of their happiness in their life. What do you have to say about that one?
All right, yeah. So this is a technique to access one of the brain's happy chemicals. The one we're talking about is dopamine. It's the reward and reinforcement chemical, and you can access it very quickly. Now, we've all done this. You're talking with your friends, you're saying, remember the time when we went, and you feel good? That's dopamine. I'd like you to imagine a colour that you associate with feeling good and warm and safe. You're free, you're happy. And when you've got that colour fixed in your head, nod so I can see. Okay, so imagine this color coming into your body, coming in through your toes, just coming up, going into every cell of your foot, and spreading out through your chest, up into your head, shooting down through your arms, your fingers. It's filling you up, it's coming out into the room. And just bathe in that. Just take the time to really settle into that good feeling. Now, I can see from your smile that you've already started to feel some of that. And
Oh,
you
I
can
have.
do this anytime you like. Yeah, the trick is that when I ask you to think about a colour you associate with a feeling, you go to the feeling. And the rest of it is just letting that do its work.
And what's this technique called?
Well, that one is the color technique, but sometimes people will call it a healing light, or it's just a visualization. But in essence, what you're doing is euphoric recall. You're remembering what it's like to feel good, and as you remember what it's like to feel good, you feel good.
Fantastic. I love that. It's like, like exactly like you said, you feel good every time you recall that childhood memory, or when you were just like, oh, remember when we did this when we were riding the bikes, or you said this, or such and such fella, and immediately you're filled with this really light, bubbly feeling. Happens to me all the time, and I definitely see this as a technique that I'm going to start my days with.
Try not to use memories with people who have suffered trauma, because the good feelings can be tainted with bad ones, and that's a real downer. It brings them down, harshes it. So using safer visualizations, fantasy visualizations, or the color one, you're avoiding that difficulty, because otherwise you're going to have to come in and do something about it. And this is you can do yourself, and there's no dodgy memories kicking around. running down the beach with your dog and you remember how your dog died,
Yeah. So that's a really great technique that's safe to practice, even if you've experienced a little bit of discomfort or a little bit of trauma in your past, and you
Yeah.
still want to step into your own. That's a great technique. Kevin, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing all things
No
that make you
problem.
happy. If you'd love to connect with Kevin, you can do so by checking out the podcast episode description below. Kevin, this is your first podcast, and I hope it's one of many more. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. We hope it gives you something to think about on your quest to discover what makes you happy. Make sure to check out whatmakesyouhappypodcast.com to connect with today's guest and follow us on all our social media platforms and to stay up to date at what's happening next at What Makes You Happy. Don't forget to share this episode with a friend, and we'll see you next time.